The following is a fan-made reading of the Pale web serial novel by J.C. McCrae. It describes extra material published after Chapter 8.2 and contains spoilers for that chapter. The original text can be found at palewebserial.wordpress.com. If you'd like to donate to the author, please go to patreon.com/wildbow. Soul and Self. This extra material is a series of 5 pages of notes written in Verona's handwriting, along with several drawings. It is entitled Self, Spirit, and Souls. Page 1. There is a picture of a deer-headed feminine spirit wearing sneakers. Self, capital S. The self includes the raw totality of our being. It is spirit, substance, power, and how we're defined by the connections around us. When we pay power for something, and we don't say how the payment will be made, and if we haven't set some expectations in advance with pattern or label, then we're assumed to be paying with self. This can be hard to notice until we pay a lot. But it makes us weaker, slower, less able to change things, hurts our friendships and relationships, and maybe the worst thing of all, makes our practice worse. Tends to take away from everything about ourself evenly. But depending on how you pay, it might lean one way or the other. Pay with blood, get physically weaker. Just like our body has cells, the self has a really complex setup of spirits. Viewed from far away, it looks like one spirit, but viewed up close, there's always more ways to break it down. Lots of emphasis on symbols, abstraction. This is why we usually have the mass built in if we're looked at with sight or scrying. Missing self can be boosted with spirit. May pollute us if not aligned to our usual self. Weird appearance and side effects. Page 2. Picture is of a girl crouching with cat ears, in shadow, with cat images scribbled over her. Other forms of bolstering self come with similar issues. Echoes will juice more civilized, human stuff. If those echoes are human, I had to ask Mr. Palazzi. But because echoes are essentially juiced up collective memories, they'll have a much bigger effect on our memories. Pollution can be sneaky and dangerous because it rewrites us at the core of our being, like mad science DNA teleporter stuff, and flies, except it's not our bodies that change. The wrong thing can throw off our whole balance. And in the really bad cases, our self gets so desperate for equilibrium that it overcompensates and goes too far in the other direction. Putting out the fire with a flood, or responding to the fire by putting out all fires. Got too many false memories from echoes? Bam! Self took initiative and fixed it by purging your memories of the last year. The good side of bolstering self is that it charges up most things about us. It makes us stronger, braver, more important, and better at practice. Which sounds great. But the problem is that A, it must blend. If it doesn't mix into us, it's less of a cyborg upgrade and more of a knife jabbed into us. B, big boosts tend to have minds of their own, often literally. So we gotta pick the right sources of power and take small steps. We gotta suffer the side effects and any pollution, or we stay really formal. Deals and duels make the U-juice more cooperative, apparently. Page 3. There is an image of a fox-headed young woman with black head and arms, a white body, and a big pink afro ponytail behind her. When putting stuff into the self, there are a few windows or key points of the body that have been formalized. A lot of the more intense schools of practice will dig into these, either to harvest from others or remove from themselves. Hosts, for example, dig out a hollow in one of these areas usually. There are a few categories of departments of the self listed. Dotted lines connect to the image on the right. Crown, spiritual. The dotted line goes to the top of the head. The crown is said to be where the self extends out to the worlds/realms. Connection to greater world practice. Brow, awareness. A dotted line goes to the forehead. The brow holds sight and capital S sight, third eye and regular eyes, nose, and primary senses. Throat, connections. A dotted line goes to the throat. The throat is where many common social connections are rooted. Word, breath, communication, society. Heart, health, healing. A dotted line goes to the upper chest. Physicality, health, healing. Mr. Palese went on a tangent about how a connection to someone can be rooted in any of these parts. The heart may be where someone good for you is rooted. Wellness. Solar plexus, absorption. A dotted line goes to the base of the ribcage, top of stomach. Processing and digestion of outside influences, deeper knowledge, spirits, quote-unquote wisdom. Page 4. The text is divided into sections, finishing out the list of departments. Sacrum, wantings. Root stuff, food, entertainment, and our own creativity, the fuel that drives us. This may be where power in general sits when we're done digesting it. The woohoo, legacy. Opposite to crown. If crown is the tree extending its branches, the woohoo, not the official term, is the roots. What we leave behind, family, deepest connections, deep, fundamental power, and the nature of the work we do. You better do some work while you're down there, boyo. Above that on the page is, we can apply some of these core principles to others and objects. Ghouls, for example, are pretty hungry guys and gals, and have a weird vitality. And not a coincidence, hearts and gut are weak points. Items and implements can have their own key parts. This gets into Valhalla stuff he's teaching next week. The third section on the page reads, everyone's balances, preferences, and way of processing each department of the self is different. Might be important to do some research and figure out my own balances, especially if I'm going to muck around with them. There's an image of a man flailing and flying through the air as a yellow wiggly line goes into his head, and a purple line sprays out of his woohoo. It's captioned, "Ah, help me! Too much power flows through me." Verona has written a small note in the bottom right. This guy is more boring than Bristow was. Page 5. Soul. Soul is the blueprint that determines us. We start out as derivatives of our parents, and a lot of those doors are closed, except the woohoo for the butt and needs. And our crown is cracked wide open, so we're taking in the world like crazy. And then, as we mature, we hope to find a loose balance. Connections constrain and define our general shape, and some others can see this. Lose the soul, and you lose the blueprint, the recipe that makes us, us. You might hold your general mental and physical shape, but just about everything is going to distort you after that. All those key body parts / departments of the self, big factors. If brought to the edge of death, a person with a soul can, but might not, find their way back to normal. A soulless other, or person, is going to be like a drawing of a drawing of a drawing, and they easily lose their way, tend to be easy to manipulate. So in sum total, my take is soul, the blueprint/foundation. Self, you as you are now. Multifaceted, a lot of stuff contributes, can have set departments, which seem to be practice at convention mostly. Spirit, abstract and idea-driven you. Reflects self-image and others' image of you. Dreams, important things about you that don't fit neatly elsewhere. Might be the kite that pulls you forward and feeds stuff into you to help you grow and develop. Probably want all of these things. Ugh. At the bottom of the page, there is a small picture of the man from the prior page kneeling in a purple puddle with yellow stream coming off of his head. This closes out the extra materials. This has been a fan-made reading of extra material from the web serial Pale by J.C. McCrae, read by steelhibiscus. I use she/her pronouns. The original text can be found at palewebserial.wordpress.com. If you'd like to donate to the author, please go to patreon.com/wildbow. Thanks for listening.